Howdy, friends. I'm back. Have to adjust something here. Give me a second. All right. It's been a little while since I did one of these videos, and why is that? Well, I've been busy working, helping somebody to move across the country. And when somebody's been in the same house for well over a decade, almost 2 decades, it can be an interesting proposition doing that kind of work, kind of consuming, especially when your friend has a schedule that they're trying to keep, which turned out they couldn't. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. I'm just explaining why I fell off the wagon temporarily, the wagon of making videos regularly. So, um, and the whole experience had detrimental effects on my business, which is not a business. I'm not really making money off of it, maybe a tiny bit. But that will change in due time. I'm going to give this a ramp up period, right? In which I'm getting my sea legs as far as writing Substack articles and making YouTube videos is concerned, and also finding my niche. Now, I've already defined what my niche is. It's disclosure integration facilitator. But exactly what does that mean, and how can I bring enough value to you through that niche to justify saying, here's some free material. I will try to always maintain that. Here's some free material for you, and it's good free material, and it's useful to your thought process, to your integration of the progressive disclosure of our species' uh, place in the universe, if you want to call it that, and it certainly can be called that, among other things. Um, so there will be free material, but also I will begin introducing paid material. So, for example, a channel membership here, maybe a Patreon. I belong to Patreon, but I'm not using it, like, except to, well, I just dipped my toe in the water just a little bit. It's like, imagine this is not my index finger, but my big toe. All right. And this is the water. So I went, eek. That's about all I've done with Patreon, but certainly one can do that, participate in it more fully and invite people to join me on Patreon. And that's actually a really good idea because it's potentially very interactive, right? So writing and knowledge acquisition, creating a database, as it were, although I'm using an analog method. Hmm. And there's a reason for that. I want to write, well, I've actually written an article about it, and I was going to put that behind the paywall on Substack, start building that up, creating a paywall, first of all, saying, in addition to the free articles, there's this growing collection of articles that you can access um, by subscribing for a monetary commitment. So what else is to be said about that? There was another point I wanted to make, and part of the downside of making my videos very spontaneous is that sometimes I'll have something to say and I'll forget what it was. Anyway, yeah, I just want to build up a library of sort of extra value material that people can access by it's a perk, you know. That's what they call the benefits of channel membership on YouTube. It's you get perks, which can be just access to more material or discounts to the store, which I don't have yet. I might in the future have some merchandise that I offer. Anyway, I don't want to talk about my business plans or business brainstorming too much, but you know, there you go. I've said a few things, but anyway, right now I find myself having taken steps backward, and then I've got to redress that, move forward, and bring things back up to the level where I want them to be, and then consider how I can move on from that. So I thought this particular video would be about something that has weighed on my mind a little bit in recent hours and days, which is my disagreement with Elena Danaan. Now, I don't want, it's a little bit of a clickbait to call it that, okay? It is a disagreement, but it's a minor disagreement and one in which I'm not deeply invested because it has to do with personal choices. And Elena makes one set of personal choices for reasons that are good in her mind and quite likely are objectively good. And yet I make a different choice because I prioritize other considerations. And so she's not trying to tell me what I should do, and I'm not trying to tell her what she should do. It's just a matter of perspective, our perspectives being different, and therefore we make different personal choices. So I want to preface this with a few additional words along similar lines, which are go like this. If you're somebody who's followed Elena for a number of years and you're deeply appreciative of her work, as I am, you may wonder how anyone could possibly disagree with her on anything or even not want to emulate her in her choices. And you may have an issue with me for having oriented this video around a disagreement with her. She doesn't need more disagreement. She needs a lot of support, I think, and I am supporting her, really. So I don't, I want anyone who started watching this thinking, well, I mean, there's several possibilities. If I post this on YouTube with a title like "My Disagreement with Elena Danaan," then some people are going to see that and unsubscribe from my channel without watching the video. That, or at least there's a risk of that. And so what I better do, I guess, is put the word disagreement in single quotes, at least, if not big double quotes or big. You know what I like is the guillemets that they use in Europe, the little the double chevron kind of quotes. I use those sometimes. If, for example, I'm quoting something and it already has double quotes and single quotes in it, what am I going to do? Well, sometimes I'll put guillemets around it. Love them things. They're beautiful too. All right. So, um, yeah, I wish to be completely supportive of Elena, and I think that everything she says is the truth, to the best of her knowledge, and her knowledge is way beyond mine overall. But here's where I differ with her. Okay. She prefers not to eat anything that has a face. And she doesn't eat the face. But let's say you have a cow, and a cow has a beautiful face, right? Or a horse or other animals, right? I don't know why I said horse, but let's say fish or an elk or a deer or a pig. Now, I will make a little quick digression about pigs, which is I live in Arizona, and around here we have peccaries, which are called javelinas. It's spelled like javelina, but it's Spanish H, so javelina. And they're around. They're a common wild animal. They'll come in people's yards. They'll kill your dogs. If your dogs get mixed up with dominant male javelina. So they present some problems, but they're just being themselves. And most people are fairly sympathetic toward them. Some people hunt them and eat them. But there were some in the backyard of the house where I was staying at one point. And I stuck my head out the door and I said, "Hi, how are y'all doing?" Or something like that, right? Like, "Hello, welcome to the backyard. Don't make a big mess." And one of them detected my location and saw me standing in the doorway and got this shocked and horrified and terrified look on its face. And they all ran away. They went through the hole under the fence, which was how they would quickly get out of the yard. And I was interested to see that look on its face because the javelina face is different from a human face, and yet I recognized its emotions and its reaction to me. Okay. Now, can I still eat a javelina? I mean, I never have, but if somebody said, "Here's some wild peccary meat," I could and I would, as most people do, eat animal meat. Now, um, there are extreme versions of this argument, if you want to call it that, or difference in perspectives. There are people who think you should eat only animal products. That's a carnivore. And there are people who think you should eat only vegetable products and fungi and algae, things that are not animal but are alive. Those are vegans. And the whole spectrum in between, you're vegan, vegetarian, standard mixed diet, um, and animal-based diet, which is where I am. Okay, that's my choice. And then there's carnivore. Now, I expect that I will stay within the carnivore slash animal-based range for the most part. Occasionally, I'll deviate and I'll have a meal of, with more vegetables in it, let's say, or more of a variety of vegetables than I normally eat. And honestly, my body's always done pretty well since I was a kid, since I started eating a mixed diet. I haven't had serious digestive issues or serious health issues, staying from somewhere in the mid-range toward the carnivore. Where I've run into trouble is in vegetarianism and veganism. And also, by the way, I did raw veganism, which is about as extreme as you can get in that direction for about a year, 90% raw or thereabouts. And pretty strictly vegan. I don't think I ate more than a small handful of animal products during that year. And only in circumstances where I couldn't get anything else. So, here's one thing I will say. I'm very grateful that the human body was designed with enough flexibility built in that we can experiment across that range, the broad range. And if necessary, we can eat a starvation diet on the vegetarian vegan side. That's how I view it. But anyway, why? Why? Why does Elena embrace vegetarianism and I embrace on the other extreme carnivore or animal based? Well, I'll tell you about her position from what I understand of it, and that is that it's a matter of frequency. she says that eating meat promotes low frequency in the body. And she's also spoken about karma. And a lot of people believe in karma, that it's a major problem and blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm coming from my beliefs prior to engaging with Elena were included the idea that reincarnation isn't real and karma doesn't exist. Karma in terms of, across lifetimes from one lifetime to the next. So I'm willing to bend on those issues, and I am now taking my past life regressions more seriously, and I've had a few, okay? Just a few. Might have more if I can find a suitable practitioner, or maybe a recorded hypnotic induction for that purpose. But here's what I think about karma. Okay, I'll get to that when I talk about my choice. So anyway, those are the arguments, and there's spiritual arguments for limiting yourself to vegetables, maybe a few animal products, like somebody who says, I don't eat anything with the face. They could eat an egg, an unfertilized egg in particular. They could eat dairy products. So they would get still possibly some animal products, unless you're a vegan who says we must not exploit animals at all. So I don't eat honey, I don't drink milk, I don't eat eggs, and so forth and so on. And by the way, I'm not criticizing people who make any of these choices. It's up to you, and I don't care what your choice is. And I don't think you're a stupid person or a bad person because you make any choice from, um, I only eat what I've hunted and killed myself, which is kind of like even more extreme than carnivore, um, down to I only eat algae and avocados, for example. If there are people like that, or fruitarians, or breatharians, if you want to try to live on um, sunlight infused water and sun gazing in the early morning and late evening. It's your business. I don't think most people will be successful with that. But I don't know everything, obviously. Okay, so let's switch to what I do know. Okay. Um, there are many, many, many lines of good evidence to the effect that the human body was designed and is to optimally function on animal products. And Dr. Sean Baker is a major proponent of the carnivore diet. He wrote a book called The Carnivore Diet. And he started as an emergency room physician, and he noticed that people who were heavy meat eaters recovered more quickly from injuries and illnesses. And that put him on to a process of research and personal experimentation and so on that led to his promoting carnivorism. And he recently posted on Facebook, "This is my food pyramid." And he has a picture of a big pyramid-shaped pile of literally nothing but red meat. He says, basically, this is what I eat, and I couldn't be healthier, or words to that effect. So anyway, Sean Baker, in one of his videos on YouTube, posted a short clip of a carnivore nutritionist, somebody who had studied nutrition, presumably in depth and at length, right, for many years. And his conclusion was, quote, a balanced diet consists of meat and animal fat, period. What's the argument against eating Oh, well, what's the argument for eating lots of meat? Well, red meat has the greatest density of nutrients that the body can use, and that different organs of the body actually need and require in order to function properly or optimally, let's say, um, of any food. That's a fact as far as I'm concerned. I'll put that up against frequency and karma any day. If my priority is to keep myself physically healthy and extend my lifespan, excuse me, um, then I'm going to eat meat. I'm not going to avoid meat. I'm not going to avoid animal fat. You can get animal fat from eggs and dairy, it's true. Um, if you eat a steak, there's a lean part and a fatty part. And there's always some fat, but some cuts of steak have more fat than others. If you eat oxtail, for example, which is the tail of the cow, there's a lot of fat on that. And that's, you can make oxtail soup or stew, or just boil it a little until it's done, and eat it with salt and pepper. And it's quite fatty. And that's good for guess which organ? Your brain, my brain, the brain. The brain thrives on animal fat. So and okay, a corollary of that is that people who have the highest beneficial cholesterol, in other words, they consume high quality animal fat and their body processes it normally, they have a very, very low incidence of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and that sort of thing. So I am loving my future self, and because I love my future self, I'm eating animal fat. I don't want to live to be 100 years old and have dementia and not know what the heck's going on or who anybody is, and being heavily dependent on other people to help me to navigate the world. If I want to have um, longevity, live into my 80s or 90s or past 100, maybe get potentially rejuvenated and live several hundred years as that technology becomes available. I don't at any point in that process want to be bereft of mind and the abilities that go with it. And brain and mind are not the same, but the brain unites the physical organism with mind, with the universal field of consciousness, with source, right? You can't have, and there's the heart and the gut. So we have nerve cells in the brain and in the heart area and in the gut, and they have very important functions. But if you want to keep your nervous system functioning well, you need animal fat. That's my understanding. Now, maybe you can cobble together some combination of um, oils from vegetable sources like avocado oil, not seed oils. They're not generally good for you. But perhaps a substitute can be cobbled together. And if you consume that and suitable nootropic supplements, you can get almost as good an effect as a diet heavy in animal fat. I don't know. There's a lot I don't know, but what I do know is that this works. The animal fat works on the nervous system and other organs of the body to keep you agile, to keep things functioning well into advanced stage. And that is something that I want. What else is going on? A hamburger made from grass-fed beef has 50,000 nutrients in it. Veggie burger the best veggie burger you can buy has about 100 nutrients in it. So that means that this is 500 times more nutritious in terms of variety of nutrients that the body can use, and many of which it actually needs, than this. So let's talk about karma. I don't think karma accrues from killing animals for food. And the reason I don't think that is the case is that we are of the nature that we function optimally on foods from animal sources. Source or God or whatever you want to call it is not unreasonable and is not perverse and is not, what's the word, capricious and unloving enough to make us so that that's what's best for us physically, and then penalize us for it. Or if it is, I don't want to live in a universe like that, right? So I might as well kill myself now. And I'm not suicidal, and I don't want to be. And I don't suggest anybody else dwell on that kind of thinking so that they start to believe it and they go and off themselves because, oh my God, I've eaten 40 cows in my lifetime and 20 pigs and some other things. And therefore, I have terrible karma and I'm going to suffer for thousands of years in future lives. I would almost go so far as to say I assume that is pure bullshit and nobody should believe it. And if Elena came up tomorrow and said, yeah, that's the way things work, I would say, you know, well, I disagree with you, and I humbly suggest that you check that idea in every way that is open to you. Because simple common sense reasoning, for me, dispels it. And I give the idea no respect whatsoever. I give you all the respect in the world, whoever you are. It could be Elena, or you could be my next door neighbor, or you could be the kid who lives down the street who has ideas about things. And I would say, congratulations for trying to think things through at your tender age. If they said something to me that I thought was the dumbest thing ever, but it's like, you're thinking, keep at it, keep at it. And I presume that to some of our off-planet cousins, my attempts to figure things out would look the same way, right? It's like, well, you're thinking, keep at it. So I think, I've beaten that subject pretty well to death, and I don't want to overdo it, right? So that's just where I am. Now, is there some cognitive dissonance? Well, maybe there is. And let's say, here's my cognitive dissonance about the subject. Let's see, it's about the size of a pecan, or pecan. People pronounce it different ways. One of those nuts that grows in the deep south of the USA, especially in South Georgia. You can go through Valdosta around that area, and you can drive through pecan groves for miles. Um, anyway, all right, so it's a little thing, right? Now I could focus on that, could focus on it, and it could bother me. Or I could say, well, there's something where Elena's prioritization and maybe her understanding of things is a little different than mine. So, and they're bumping up against each other. That's not my main focus, friends. And it's not going to become my main focus, and I'm not going to obsess over it, and I'm not going to get upset about it. I put it on the shelf. I will continue eating the way I choose to eat. I give her And people who think that, oh, she's a goddess, I must follow her and do things her way. Well, you can do that if you want to. And she is a goddess, but that doesn't mean you have to um, agree with all her tastes and preferences and emulate her in every aspect of your life. And she would agree with me on that, I'm very sure. So that's my little monologue for today. Um, if you have concerns, questions, contradictions, arguments, you know, go for it. Post them below, in the comments section, or send me an email about it. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not putting anybody down, not criticizing anybody. I'm giving everybody complete freedom to figure this out for themselves. You can find, as I have found, and during my life, tons of arguments for veganism and vegetarianism. You can find also now, more so than ever, tons of arguments for carnivore and animal-based diets. And you can figure out what you think, what you choose, do it your way, and for sure we will get consequences, right? Whether it's karma or something else, there will be consequences in to our health and well-being and the way we feel about ourselves and the way we integrate disclosure and the way we integrate into the cosmic realm as it becomes more and more accessible to each of us, and more so to some than others, over time. So monitor the consequences, whatever your choices are, monitor the consequences and be willing to change. And that's going to be part of my strategy, right? And I have said that if the Galactic Federation of Worlds presents their version of the food pyramid and says, this is what you should be eating, and this is how much, or even maybe it's not something that applies equally to everybody, right? It might depend on our particular mix of genetics. Some people should be eating carnivore, some people should be eating animal-based, and some people can get away with vegetarian or vegan or breatharianism or whatever, right? Inedia, which means you just don't eat and you're supported from the spiritual realm. Maybe that's where we're all going, and we'll get there one day. And maybe it doesn't matter how long or how many steps it takes for us to reach that. But then we might not be in physical bodies at that point either, or only tenuously connected to a physical body. So we'll just have to see how all those things work out. But for now, I'm eating the way that serves my body and my physical well-being the best. And it also affects one's mood. It is said that if you eat carnivore, you cannot be depressed. You might get sad occasionally because something bad happens, right? Your pet dies or somebody in your family, You'll be sad for a couple of days. But I remember one thing Tony Robbins said when I was paying more attention to him some years ago. He said, you are naturally wired. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but you're naturally wired to react with sadness and grief for about 2 days. And if you're still, no matter what happens, if you're still in that state, um, to you're immersed in grief and you can't function after a couple of days, you're creating this situation for yourself. And some people, when I relayed that to them, said, "Oh, he's just not sensitive, or he's, you know, propagating a rule that doesn't apply to everybody." But he was saying this is literally a fact of human psychology, and it does apply to pretty much everyone, right? So I took that I took that on board as something to remind myself of. And so since then, I've had marriages come apart, and certainly people have died that I was close to, and had girlfriends break up with me. Hmm. And if I went into a state of grief, I've gotten to the point where I don't even do that. It lasts about 5 minutes. And then I say, okay, well, then how do I move on? What do I do next that doesn't include this relationship that I've lost, or this person that I've lost, or this pet that I can no longer pet? And it's not that I have disregard for them or don't care about them, or never did care about them. It's not any of that. It is that what serves my interests and theirs and the, the whole of humanity the best is to go on living my life and make adjustments and be the best person I can be, the best version of myself, as the saying goes. So that's my reasoning about that. And it's really helped me a lot. Thank you, Tony Robbins, for that. So I've gotten off the subject of diet a little bit here, but you got a little bonus. You got a little bonus in addition to the main subject matter of my monologue. So thanks for listening. And I'm going to conclude, say bye bye and hasta la vista until next time. So, what concluding requests do I have? Well, if you're new here, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to hear more um, about disclosure facilitation, disclosure integration facilitation. Keep in mind, this is, disclosure right now is voluntary. If you choose to take an interest in it and you listen to the people who are disclosing, who are people like Elena, Danny Henderson, JP, certain others, there's actually many, right, that have worthwhile things to share. And they don't always agree 100%, and that's probably okay. Some of them are disagreeable as well as disagreeing with others, and that's more problematic. But anyway, it's voluntary. So you're here voluntarily. You're listening to this because you were interested in the subject matter, right? Or if not, you won't be back anytime soon, and that's okay too. It's all okay. It's up to you and me and each person. But in the future, disclosure is going to fall on everybody's head. Like, I don't know, let's say a big rainstorm comes along, a hurricane, and there's a lot of rain and there's a lot of wind, and nobody can ignore it. That's what it's going to be like soon. And so I want to be there as a rock of stability and somebody who has done two things. Number one, educated myself by the time that all this happens. And number two, I understand it well and I can explain it. And I'm here making videos and I'm on Substack writing and I'm available perhaps for personal consultations. We'll see how things work out. And there may be a career uh, for me off world in the future, not as a physically aged person, probably, but if I can get rejuved and study exopolitics or whatever it takes, get a degree. I've gotten a couple of degrees in my life in other things, so I assume I can get a degree in ET studies, maybe even from a Pleiadian university. Can you imagine? There will probably be correspondence courses, or if you have the money, you can fly to go to Era or whatever planet is hosting. Um, Mars, maybe, you know. But I look forward to those possibilities. I love learning and I love applying useful knowledge. And so I'm saying this it's not just about me, friends. It's like you too could be crazy enough or visionary enough, which is what I'd rather think it is, to entertain such possibilities. Your next career could be something having to do with human or, Terrahu, it's what we are, slash ET relations. Or if you love science, you could study off-world science, which would be more advanced than human science and probably involve a lot of corrections of false and misleading things that are viewed as scientific facts at the current moment. But we'll see how that works out. All right. Thanks again for being here. I will talk to you another time. Bye for now.